Amygdala and hippocampus in the limbic system are the most active parts of the brain in sleep. The first one does the emotion therapy, and the second one is involved in memory building. Sensory brain is the part that fabricate dream scenarios and episodes as the dreaming short-term memory. As we know, the amygdala is the part of the brain that the strains over the cortex beyond the physical property of the local tissues will overlap into the amygdala as a strain reservoir. The hippocampus and the amygdala also communicate to each other to assign each short-term memory to its related emotion. They are not independent from each other but tightly connected. Different stages of the sleep are a play between these two functions of emotion therapy and long-term memory building. They switch between these two functions. The short-term memory of dreams themselves are so weak in coagulation that disappear very fast, and rarely short-term memory of a dream will convert in a long-term memory of it and will be remembered in future. Actually, a long-term memory is made of motifs or units that each is saved in a local fractal connectivity structure. These motifs link and form pieces and altogether a complete memory, linking the related motifs along a strain energy streamline attractors. Any short-term memory forms by connecting a variety of motifs along non-attractor streamlines, those producing strains. The difference between a short-term and long-term memory is that short-term memory is not stable, but the long-term memory is stable in terms of strain barrels or strain condition. Short-term memory tends to approach attractor streamlines and to arrive in a new balance and become a long-term memory. Those it sends excess strains to the amount that the tissues on that location can absorb the strains. These excess strains will follow over into the amygdala. Streamlines will reflect the theme of an activity, a brain activity. Theme will be saved in the hippocampus. The hippocampus and the amygdala have a shared responsibility to save theme and related emotion as coordination of a memory. A deviation from an energy attractor seems as the emotion, attach emotion, and targeting uh, attractor streamlines is the theme of the activity. And in a long-term memory, these two coordination fix and stable the memory for future recalls. As already uh, mentioned, excess of strain energy as emotional stimulus, hereafter referred as strains only, will overflow as inputs to the amygdala in waking time. The output will explode either in motor actions in some way through the basolateral nucleus or corticomedial, initiating new feelings, dreams, or thoughts. The functions of the dreams and feelings, as well as memory building, will not be fulfilled immediately in the short-term strain balance, but it takes a time, hours to days, to appear as related follow-up for dogs. The difference of the difference between the emotion which is converted in one of the ways already mentioned, and the part that remains will be consolidated as a emotional memory, as other type of memories will be consolidated over the cortex areas. Amygdala receives the excess strains over the viscoelastic property from different sensory areas. In addition to the sensory inputs, the amygdala also receives inputs from higher association or their areas like the areas over the prefrontal cortex, which they create concepts, and this concept will be returned back to the sensory brain as inputs. In output side, blood pressure and heart rate will rises with increase in emotions. When muscles may excite to run or freeze in waking time, but they convert mostly into images as dream episodes and attached feelings. Maybe sometimes when there is a high emotional content attached to the dream episodes, some body signs like wedding or increase in the heart and blood pressure, heart rate and blood pressure occurs in parallel. Inputs to the amygdala are from the different cortex areas and different brain parts actually. Many of the inputs, or we can say more frequent inputs, comes from the prefrontal cortex. In these inputs will be outputted again to the sensory brain to integrate in forming short-term memories. The output from the amygdala, from all other brain parts also may be submitted straightly to the sensory brain and forming the secondary short-term memory. So the, there are two parallel short memory formation, one especially from the prefrontal cortex and second one from the other parts of the cortex as well as the other brain parts. A sequence of the primary and secondary short-term memories with determined how much they are happening in the same time. If in the same time and forming the related short memories just in parallel, the related streamlines of the short memories will be bound together in a stream bundle. And in future, if one of those short memory continues for any action, the other one also will happen in parallel. Memories of random events may consolidate or strengthen contingency connections, even if they seem different. However, in future they function as activities of similar with a similar theme. They follow similar energy attractor streamlines. Uh, Pavlovian association is the famous phenomena that follow the same rule. If two stimulations happen about the same time, they initiate associated activities consisting of feeling, thought generation, and motor output. Sound initiates its own short-term memory. In the same time, a conceptual product from the same or parallel activity may initiate a secondary thought. If the sound sensation happens just before the painful feeling activity of the sound, that sound will alarm a bad feeling associated with that feeling in future. But if the sound just before or in the same time as rewarding events happens, uh, like receiving food, the sound will initiate searching for the food in future and will provide a positive feeling. Input currents that coagulate and form short-term memories may cause that a neural pathway behave either in linear or non-linear viscoelastic property range. In linear range, the formation will happen according the streamlines that will referred as theme of the activity, and memory of that will be saved in the hippocampus. This memory will adapt brain for how to connect memory units to resolve the best way in future, uh, or as experienced before. If the formation happens in non-linear range, the emotion memory will be saved in amygdala, And this memory, this emotion memory will adapt the brain for how to handle stressful events and related memory units in future. In other words, hippocampus will consolidate streamline memories and direct the brain activities for a smoother and more productive pathways, where the amygdala, emotion memory, uh, they set goals either to follow the pathway or streamline to or to avoid that. And these two sometimes are in conflict, and sometimes they balance each other on the best way. Uh, we call it destructive interconnection between the two, or productive. The outcome of the brain activities appear as thought generation or motor action signals, but it doesn't mean that it stops at that time. It continues by preserving the related emotion for a day to a week, and by that resource it will initiate dreams, related dreams, and also related memory consolidations. Uh, this the, the immediate outcome of the brain activities just approach a instant or on time strain energy balance state, that is a allostasis process, but after a day or few days, they approach a permanent stable memory, consolidating that, and this process is called homeostasis process, and by that the brain activity approaches a longer time strain balance. Any form short-term memory has its thought generation and possible motor action signals in time of formation. But consolidation of the related memory takes time, as previously said, a day or few days, and the the type of the consolidation is so that the components of the short memory, which has some stressful power, they will sorted and saved in related fractal structures in different cortex areas. By fractal structures means that those components should have the same configuration, connectivity configuration, as already that location of the cortex has similar configuration. The connection between these consolidated memory units, as already explained will be done by team memories in the hippocampus and emotion memories in the amygdala, which they happen in a later relaxation state. Mm, the the local memory units will be consolidated in the deep sleep, and those who connect those memory units will happen in the REM stages of sleep or dreaming stages of sleep. However, all activities may not have memory in future. Some of them during the consolidation will weaken or erase the other memory units, because never that fitting of the short-term memory components and the long-term motifs in locations are ideal. There are some differences. So this new memory consolidation may lose or even erase some of the previous memory units, and also may erase the team memories. For example, in the addictions, addiction normally they follow the team memories in the hippocampus, and they can be removed or weakened somehow by some kind of therapies. Memory units and related emotion memory both are activated by radial strain submission from the limbic system. The unit, a memory unit is activated with the narrower rays of the strain sub-energy submissions, but emotion memory covers the whole fractal structure that memory unit is one of the units on that, one of the motifs of that structure. So, in other way, we can say that the memory units in an activity that are connected with the team and streamlines are also covered by parallel clothes of the activating emotion memories all through the pathway, and emotion memory and team memory are regulating each other, and it is the best that the regulation would be smooth. Sometimes the emotion which is attached to an activity is more stronger than the team which direct the connection between memory units, and some other times it is reverse. It depends that how much the frontal cortex is involved in the pathway of forming brain activity. If the prefrontal cortex is more involved in the pathway, it regulates more basic emotion arousal. But if it is excluded from the pathway, the basic emotion will arouse more strongly. Uh, just to note that by emotion here, it is referred to the basic emotion. Actually, the ethics and the religious emotions and so on are like algorithm memory units over the prefrontal cortex. So those kind of the advanced emotion memories also regulate the basic emotion memories. Uh, and in this way, we should distinguish between basic emotions and advanced emotions. The difference between thought and dream is the number of the fragments that are connected, and there is a contingency in content of the fragments. In doubts are formed in higher kinetics of the string carrier waves around the cortex, and they can continue and last for much more higher number of the fragments. Just as a note, a fragment is a part of a thought that forms during one cycle of the cortex recycling. But dreams are formed in lower kinetics and cannot continue and last for a long time. They just are made of few fragments, and most of the time these fragments are not very connected as we see them in waking time. We tell them there is no logic in dreaming. This is the main difference between the thought and dream. So the theme is in a thought more stable, and it is less stable during dreaming. How the emotion of a event, a stressful event, and related the dream will be the same. As already explained, emotion is about the excitation of the fractal structure in a cortex area, mostly in the sensory brain, which is connected to a certain part of the amygdala, which it has saved an emotion unit. So when the units in the waking time, they connect to each other by team, and they are attached with the emotion. The same emotion remains for creating dreams and memory consolidation, and we see that the same feeling will be arised during the emotion that was aroused in the waking related happening of event. Because the subject of the theme and emotion uh, in forming of brain activity is so important, we again describe these two terms in maybe different way. A theme of a brain activity indicates the flux of the strained energy flow in horizontal direction. When the emotion of a brain activity attached to a brain activity indicate that how the fractal structures in different cortex area are activated in sequence during a brain activity, and the emotion attached emotion is a current of the radial strain flux that fluctuate all around. In other side, the theme is normally referred to the strain energy flux horizontally around the cortex. As in the previous slide it was mentioned, they should normally in a balanced thought be in balance together, but sometimes the emotion aspect is stronger than the theme aspect, and sometimes it is reversed based on how much the prefrontal cortex is involved in the activity. Dreams are known as activities that there is no reasoning on that. We have no control on the direction it goes, and it is famous that all imaginary events in dreams it goes as it goes. They have a subconscious reasoning of basic emotions. Reasoning is the way fragment of thoughts are connecting together, and as already told, in waking they are very dynamic and strong in connections, but in sleep and in dreaming the fragments are loose and disconnected every few fragments which connect to each other. This reasoning, which is a basic or instinctual reasoning, they are in pictorial shape, and we see, for example, when there is a emotion of being hungry, food will appear in some way, or when there is a sex drive, other gender will appear in the dream, or when there is a fear, aggression or freezing on location will be imagined. Or, for example, we like or dislike. Uh, these emotions will appear with touching or avoidance to touch any other person, or similarly when there is an emotion of aggression, we see an attack happens. This attack could be by I itself or an animal or any other image. In this way, reasoning in dreams is a recipe only what subconsciously form as a scenario, as a dream narrative, we can say. Opposite to that, of course, during the waking, fragments are strongly connected to each other by involvement of the prefrontal cortex signals as inputs to the amygdala, and sometimes these signals are advanced emotions like ethics and the religious beliefs and so on, but sometimes they are very abstracted, like the language and mathematics formulations, which these never happen in dreaming. In short, we can say that dreams are wiring of images by instinctual reasoning. By definitions that already we have made in kinematics theory for theme and emotion, they are not unlimited in types. The themes already in different research work have proved in dreams, dreaming themes are around 110, or some researchers say less and some more. Similarly for emotions, on very basic level, they are very limited, and then of course by advancement will be spread in more detail. So because the emotion are somehow related to the fractal structures over the cortex, and these fractal structures are not more than the area numbers of the cortex. They are also limited, and they can be around the same numbers as already mentioned for teens. There are many questions regarding what emotions are passive, what are active, and what type of the emotion reflect in dreams. The other question in this regard is all the stressful events and resulting short-term memories in a day will appear in the dreams of the same day or not, as well as how the consolidation of the memories are split in different cycles of the sleep. Uh, there are uh, the related answers actually needs a lot of research work, but generally they can be expected regarding to which area of the cortex these memories are related, which are most stressful and least stressful, which can be ignored and will not be consolidated as memory, and so on. So here we just highlight the points, but they need a lot of research work to finalize them. The other question is regarding uh, the negative and positive emotion in dreams. According to research, most of the emotions happen in dreams are negative, maybe more than 70%. Why is it like that? Because the sleep is a period that strain residuals will relieve, and it is expected to have a relaxing feeling and joy, or a positive emotion. But actually it is more complex than that, and as I already told, it needs more research in details. Some of these emotions became more complicated, and we'll have joy in the pain. In waking, those people who are masochism or sadism, they enjoy by suffering themselves or others. They have joy in suffering, either their own suffering or other suffering. Anyway, this is another subject that needs more detailed research, of course. When thoughts has got more stronger team factor, emotions have got more radial strain submission from the amygdala and emotion factors. So again, the difference between the thoughts and feeling is thoughts have got more team and weaker emotion content, but reverse to that, emotion have got less team factor and more radial submission factor. Here I would like to wrap up this presentation with the types of the dreams. Dreams are in early cycles of the sleep, is very short and fragmental, made of one or few fragments. But in the later cycles, especially before waking, is made of more fragments and has got a story-like theme. In the other point is in the thought generation, the memory units which are recalled and joined together are very small units. However, in dreams, these units may be a piece of memory or anyway, the larger units that those which incorporate in thoughts. These are the two the points to remember for distinguishing between focused thoughts especially and dreaming, or daydreaming will be in middle as well. Please do not forget to send your comments and questions to morse.dini@gmail.com. Thank you for watching.